There was a man who had $107,000 taken from him from the IRS. He had worked for 13 years in a convenience store. He had owned it, and there's a law on the books that if you make a cash deposit of over $10,000, the bank or credit union has to report it to the IRS. He had made his deposits at under $10,000, not right under, but not like 999, like nothing like that. But he had been doing the same thing for 10, 15, 13 years that he was in business, over 10 years, and he hadn't really changed, but he would save up for a week or whatever and then deposit it. The article points out that it's a valid. I mean, a lot of insurance companies will insure up to $10,000, so a lot of companies will get to 9,000 or so and then make that deposit. So since the government said, well, he's purposefully trying to dodge our $10,000 limit, he must be hiding something or doing something illegal, and they just took the whole 107,000 that he had saved for 13 years for.
And the reason that I wanted you to mention that that was a Vox story, Corey made sure that I made this point. When we are talking about broad issues that appeal broadly, if we come at some people with a Fox News link on a story, sometimes people have a wall built up and a block there that they will not listen to anything that comes out of Fox News or other sources. If you brought a Limbaugh story, a Limbaugh write-up, or a Limbaugh audio segment, you couldn't get to them with that issue. But when we recognize that liberal outlets such as Huffington Post and Vox are putting those stories out, that tells you two things. It tells you, number one, that the left is somewhat, if not as concerned about these issues as we are. Might be different motivations, but that there is a broad, really broad, across the spectrum issue that we can tackle and seed our perspective into it. But it also says that those liberal sites are feeding that information too, and we don't need to be left behind on an issue of, say, asset forfeiture because the left is the only ones talking about it. So we can use that as a signal to tell us that this is a very broad issue, but we can also use that as a source that might get around somebody's objections to other traditional right-wing or right-slanted sites that we might see. It's very important, too, because when you're talking something as personal as asset forfeiture, that never happens to a group of people. It's one person, one family, one entity at a time. So the stories are all very personal and very heart-wrenching. People's life savings confiscated because a government entity suspected them of something that they could not prove, did not want to go through the bother of proving those things, but wants the assets anyway because there's a bounty. There's a reward for them based on that.
So these are federal laws, not
yes.
state or local. And
it's a hodgepodge of all of the above.
There was a precedent set federally about the civil asset forfeiture that has been used. That precedent has been used down the line.
Okay, so is this? I'm just trying to figure out. As far as a heinous wrong that must be righted, do we target it at the local level first and try to correct it in jurisdictions and then counties and states? Or should we target that from a Washington, D.C. level? I mean, where's the resistance going to be least?
Yes and yes. Yes, a pincer movement that hits both. We need our federal elected officials to be on and aware of and on this issue. And some of our candidates are, some of our legislators are. But when we're looking at state issues, state by state, a state can limit the state entities from doing these things as well. Susana Martinez just did it. There's a bill in front of the Texas legislature about it. So both need to happen simultaneously. And the way that we contribute to this is trumpeting stories like this so that we can build the popular support so that we can do that.
But the opposition that we're going to get is that this is a revenue source that we're harming.
No. The opposition that we're going to get is, of course, they're guilty. That's what's
His car
happen.
smelled like pot. Of course it was drug money. the kid, this was a black kid with 16 grand. Where's a black kid gonna get 16 grand? Of course he was
Yes.
selling drugs.
And this is what's so heinous about it, because when we're looking at the issues, we're not anymore talking about due process. We're talking about suspicion, we're talking about profiling, and we're talking about a complete lack of due process, because in these stories, the person is not considered the one who has been involved in the crime. It's the assets. People who might not understand what due process means in general will definitely get this story. It's an ability to open up conversations on a wide range of issues. And that's why I am so passionate about this issue in all these stories that I found, because I want people on our side to be able to take these heart-wrenching stories, learn how to practice talking about them, reaching more people, because honestly, I don't care who's in power. I need this gone. And I need as many people on this issue as possible, making this no longer a policy. So I'm willing to take everybody on my train that I can get on this issue, and that's the way I think we should approach most of these.
Look, why are we even allowing them to do this without accusing you of a crime? Period.
Because we wanted to fight the drug cartels in the 80s, and we didn't have laws that could do that at the time. And it was meant to take millions of dollars. It was meant to cripple cartels, but now it's used to take, $60,000 from veterans because their car smelled a little bit like pot.
Say what?